The ice glistens under the arena lights as a lean figure in a Buffalo Sabres jersey crouches in the goal. At 6 feet 1 inch and 166 pounds, he's smaller than most NHL goalies. But Dominik Hasek is about to change everything we know about hockey. In 1992, the Buffalo Sabres were desperate. 9 years without advancing in the playoffs had left fans bitter and hope running thin. Their solution? A goalie with a bizarre style that made scouts shake their heads. The Chicago Blackhawks had already deemed him expendable, trading him away in what would become one of the most short-sighted decisions in NHL history. But Hasek wasn't interested in conventional wisdom. While other goalies stood tall and played by the textbook, he turned goaltending into an art of controlled chaos. His body would twist and contort in ways that defied physics. Sprawling, rolling, even using his head to stop pucks when necessary. Opponents couldn't predict what he'd do next because even Hasek didn't know until the moment arrived. Every save, every moment, every revolution in the game has a story behind it. Join our hockey family. Subscribe now and be part of the legacy as we unveil the untold sagas of the sport's greatest pioneers. Born behind the Iron Curtain in Pardubice, Czechoslovakia, Hasek had learned to stop pucks on rough ice with makeshift equipment. That hard-scrabble beginning forged an adaptability that would revolutionize the sport. They called him the Dominator, a nickname that became prophecy. Over the next decade, Hasek didn't just prove his critics wrong, he rewrote the record books. 6 Vezina Trophies as the league's best goaltender, 2 Hart Trophies as MVP, unprecedented for a goalie. In 1999, he carried an underdog Sabres team to within 2 games of a Stanley Cup championship through sheer force of will. But the early days in Buffalo tested every ounce of his resolve. As he stepped into the starting role, critics circled like vultures. His unorthodox style was ridiculed in press boxes across the league.
I was playing at the time when Hasek first broke into the National Hockey League, and we all kind of laughed at him because he was so unorthodox.
Veterans predicted he'd never last, that his scrambling style would leave him injured or exposed. The pressure mounted with each game, his NHL dream, and the hopes of a frustrated franchise resting on those seemingly too narrow shoulders. Little did they know, they weren't just watching a goalie find his footing. They were witnessing the birth of a legend who would transform his position and redefine what was possible between the pipes. The 1993-94 season dawned with whispers of doubt echoing through Buffalo's Memorial Auditorium. But what unfolded over the next months would silence every critic and etch Dominik Hasek's name into hockey legend. Night after night, the Dominator defied physics and frustrated shooters. His .930 save percentage didn't just lead the league, it shattered the NHL record. 7 shutouts, a staggering 1.95 goals against average. The Sabres weren't just winning, they were witnessing the evolution of goaltending itself. But to understand the magnitude of Hasek's rise, you have to go back to a frozen rink in Pardubice, Czechoslovakia. It's 1971, and a 6-year-old boy is taking his first tentative steps onto the ice. Nobody watching that day could have guessed they were seeing the birth of a revolution in hockey. By 16, Hasek wasn't just playing, he was dominating Czechoslovakia top professional league. While other teenagers worried about homework, he was shutting down grown men twice his size for HC Pardubice. 5 straight years as the country's top goaltender, 2 league championships, each save building the legend that would eventually shake the NHL to its foundations. The Chicago Blackhawks saw enough to draft him in 1983, barely, the 199th pick, buried deep in the 10th round. But politics had other plans. The Iron Curtain kept Hasek trapped in Czechoslovakia, forcing him to watch from afar as his NHL dreams seemed to slip away. Then came 1989. The Velvet Revolution swept through Czechoslovakia, tearing down walls and opening doors. Hasek finally got his chance, landing in Chicago for the 1990-91 season. But the NHL dream quickly turned bittersweet. Stuck behind Ed Belfour, one of the league's premier goalies, Hasek spent 2 years watching from the bench. 25 games. That's all he got to prove himself. The Blackhawks, convinced they had their goalie of the future in Belfour, traded Hasek to Buffalo in 1992. They couldn't have known they were giving away a legend for spare parts, a goalie who would revolutionize the position, a man whose unconventional style would inspire a generation of netminders. Looking back, those early struggles, from the communist-era rinks of Pardubice to the frustrating nights on Chicago's bench, weren't obstacles. They were the forge that tempered the Dominator into the most innovative and influential goaltender hockey had ever seen. His journey wasn't just about proving doubters wrong, it was about showing the world that greatness doesn't always come in the expected package. The Buffalo Sabres locker room, 1992. A backup goalie sits quietly, watching Grant Fuhr command the crease. But destiny had other plans for Dominik Hasek. When Fuhr went down with an injury in the 93-94 season, the Dominator unleashed a style of goaltending that left broadcasters speechless and shooters baffled. Flopping, rolling, stacking the pads in ways that seemed to defy anatomy, Hasek wasn't just stopping pucks, he was revolutionizing the position. The numbers told a story that even his critics couldn't deny. 1.95 goals against average, a .930 save percentage that led the league, the Vezina Trophy as the NHL's best goaltender. He even shared the William M. Jennings Trophy with Fuhr for allowing the fewest goals. But numbers alone couldn't capture the artistry, the innovation, the sheer audacity of his approach. Then came the night that turned him into a legend. Game 6 against the New Jersey Devils. 4 overtimes, 70 saves, 0 goals allowed. In the longest game many fans had ever witnessed, Hasek didn't just persevere, he seemed to gain strength with each impossible save. The Marathon Man of Memorial Auditorium had arrived. The next season brought uncertainty as labor disputes shortened the schedule, but even a lockout couldn't cool the Dominator's hot hand. Another league-leading .930 save percentage, a 2.11 goals against average that made shooters question their life choices. A second consecutive Vezina Trophy that suggested this wasn't just a hot streak, this was hockey's new normal. The Philadelphia Flyers might have ended Buffalo's playoff hopes that year, but they couldn't dim Hasek's rising star. His journey from backup to superstar wasn't just about personal triumph. It was reshaping how the entire league thought about goaltending. European goalies had always faced skepticism in the NHL. The league's old guard claimed their style wouldn't hold up against North American shooters. Hasek didn't just prove them wrong, he turned their assumptions upside down, quite literally sometimes. His acrobatic saves weren't just effective, they were inspiring a new generation of goalies to think beyond the traditional butterfly style. From 1992 to 2001, Hasek didn't just tend goal for the Buffalo Sabres. He redefined what was possible between the pipes. Every sprawling save, every stacked pad miracle, every headfirst dive into traffic added another chapter to a legacy that would change hockey forever. The 1996-97 season wasn't just another chapter in hockey history. It was the year Dominik Hasek rewrote the book. His .930 save percentage and 2.27 goals against average didn't just earn him the Vezina Trophy. They brought him the Hart Memorial Trophy as league MVP. No goalie had claimed that honor since 1962. Under his guard, Buffalo claimed their first division title in 16 years. But greatness comes with complications. As head coach Ted Nolan collected the Jack Adams Award, tension simmered between him and his star goalie. It boiled over in the Ottawa playoff series when Hasek's knee injury sparked a controversy that would ultimately drive Nolan from Buffalo. The Dominator responded to the drama the only way he knew how, by getting even better. The 1997-98 campaign brought 13 shutouts and a jaw-dropping .932 save percentage. Another Vezina, another Hart Trophy. No goalie had ever won MVP twice in a row. The Sabres surged to the conference finals before Washington finally ended their run. Then came 1999, the year Buffalo held its breath. Hasek's playoff performance was superhuman. .939 save percentage, 1.77 goals against average. The Sabres rode their guardian angel all the way to the Stanley Cup finals. But even the Dominator's magic couldn't overcome Dallas in a heartbreaking 6-game series that ended on a controversial triple overtime goal. The consolation prize? A 5th Vezina Trophy. Injuries plagued 2000, but Hasek wouldn't let his Buffalo story end there. He roared back in 2001, claiming his 6th Vezina and 2nd Jennings Trophy. When he finally left for Detroit in 2001, he'd set franchise records that still stand. 2.22 career goals against average, .926 save percentage. 2 Stanley Cups would follow with the Red Wings, but his Buffalo years defined him. More than the records, more than the acrobatic saves, Hasek's legacy was in the eyes of young goalies watching him play. They saw a man who ignored convention, who turned desperation into art, who proved that greatness doesn't need a blueprint. The next generation of netminders wouldn't just study Hasek's technique, they'd inherit his courage to be different. Detroit, 2001, The Red Wings locker room buzzed with Hall of Fame talent: Yzerman, Lidstrom, Shanahan, Hull, Robitaille. But the missing piece had just arrived. A goalie with everything to prove and one dream left to chase. Dominik Hasek hadn't come to Detroit to add more individual trophies to his shelf. After a decade of brilliance in Buffalo, he hungered for the one prize that had eluded him: Stanley Cup. His first season with the Wings suggested destiny was listening. 41 wins, a career high. The team steamrolled to a 51-17-10-4 record, best in the league. But regular season dominance wasn't enough for the Dominator. The 2002 playoffs became his masterpiece. 6 shutouts, an NHL postseason record, each blank slate a statement. This was his moment. When the Red Wings faced Carolina in the finals, the outcome felt inevitable. 5 games later, Hasek finally held the cup he'd chased for so long. Standing there, drenched in victory and champagne, he made a decision that shocked the hockey world. He was retiring, walking away at the peak to spend time with family. The storybook ending seemed complete, except Hasek couldn't stay away. Summer 2003 brought his unexpected return, creating a goaltending logjam with Curtis Joseph and Manny Legacy. The Wings welcomed back their champion, but fate had other plans. A stubborn groin injury limited him to just 14 games in 2003-4. His numbers, 2.21 goals against average, .907 save percentage, were solid, but his body was rebelling. He shut down his season to heal, watching helplessly as Calgary eliminated Detroit in round 2. The 2004-5 lockout gave him time to recover, to contemplate his next move. When hockey resumed, Hasek made a bold choice, signing with the Ottawa Senators. It was a fresh start, a chance to prove he still had magic left. His performance suggested he did, until the 2006 Winter Olympics dealt another cruel blow. An injury there ended his season prematurely, but legends don't fade quietly. Each setback seemed to fuel something deeper in Hasek. The same determination that had transformed him from a 10th-round draft pick into the Dominator now drove his comebacks. Every time critics whispered he was finished, he found another gear. The book wasn't closed on Dominik Hasek. There were still chapters to write. Detroit, 2006, the Dominator was coming home. At 41, when most goalies had long hung up their skates, Hasek signed another one-year deal with the Red Wings. Critics wondered if he had anything left. His response? A 2.05 GAA and .913 save percentage across 56 games, dragging Detroit to the Western Conference Finals before Anaheim ended their run in 6. But Hasek wasn't finished writing his story. The 2007-8 season brought a partnership with Chris Osgood that proved magical. Though Osgood would take over the crease during the first round of playoffs, what followed was the stuff of legends. The Red Wings marched through the postseason, culminating in a 6-game triumph over the young, hungry Pittsburgh Penguins. As Hasek lifted the Stanley Cup for the second time, the circle felt complete. On June 9, 2008, in a voice thick with emotion, the Dominator announced his retirement. 16 NHL seasons, 6 Vezina Trophies, 2 Hart Trophies, 2 Stanley Cups. Numbers that told only part of the story. But Hasek's true legacy wasn't in the statistics or even the championships. It lived in the way he transformed his position. Before him, goaltending was about technique, about following a Hasek passed down through generations. Hasek showed there was another way. He turned desperation into art, made the impossible routine, proved that innovation could triumph over tradition. He came to the NHL as an afterthought, the 199th pick in the draft, a backup's backup. He left as the Dominator, the Czech legend who revolutionized hockey's most important position. In Buffalo, he showed that one player could carry a team's dreams. In Detroit, he proved that even the greatest could adapt, could share the spotlight, could find new ways to win. Young goalies watching Hasek didn't just see a player, they saw permission to be different. His flopping, rolling, scrambling style wasn't just effective, it was liberating. He showed that there wasn't one right way to stop a puck, that creativity and instinct could be just as valuable as textbook form. The final chapter of Hasek's career wasn't just about adding to his trophy case, it was about completing a journey that began on rough ice in Pardubice, wound through the political tensions of the Iron Curtain, blossomed in Buffalo, and culminated in Detroit. It was the story of a man who didn't just play hockey, he reimagined it. In the end, Dominik Hasek wasn't just a goalie who changed the game, he was proof that greatness doesn't always look the way we expect it to. I've noticed that out of every 100 viewers, only 2 actually subscribe. Your support means the world to me, and it costs nothing. By subscribing, You're helping this channel grow and ensuring more awesome content comes your way. If you're loving what you're seeing, please consider subscribing. It's a small gesture that makes a massive difference. Until next time, keep pushing forward and stay awesome. See you in the next video.